our final cooking class. I can't believe this is it.
I know, it's sad.
Yeah, but we've learned so many skills, cooking skills, nutrition information. We're continuing to build upon how to make balanced meals. So we're here to make our final balanced meal. So I'm Chloe, and this is
Staf.
And we are both interns at Project Healthy Schools. And Staf, what are we making today?
So we're making falafel and tabouli.
Ooh, that sounds pretty good. What is that?
So tabouli is a little bit, you can kind of compare it to that salsa you guys made, but the falafel might be a little different than anything you guys might have had. Have you guys ever had chickpeas before?
I have.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So falafel is made with chickpeas and some onions, and it's a little bit different. It's hard to kind of pin down exactly what it's like. If you've had it, you know exactly what it is. Once you guys make it, if this is your first time trying it, you'll remember it forever.
All right, so today's focus, we're going to be making the falafels, which is going to be our focus on plant protein. So we've been talking about balanced meals, and one of the things that sometimes are missing in our meals is protein. So what we've done today is we're focusing on plant protein. Plants are an inexpensive way to add protein to your diet, and they also are a lot friendlier to the environment. So we'll be going a little bit over sustainability and how you can change your diet to be a little bit more eco-friendly. So Staf, can you show us the ingredients and materials we'll be using today?
Yeah. All right, guys. So in each of your bags, you guys should have had some ingredients, and then I'm also going to have you guys grab out any of the tools you're going to need for today. So in your bags, you guys should have had 1 lemon, 1 tomato, 1 red onion, a can of chickpeas. Today we have a different kind of quinoa that we're using. You guys might have something similar. You guys might have dry quinoa. You'll see it in your bag. We're gonna have a little bit of oil, and then we have a few different seasonings here. We just have a little bit of salt and pepper, parsley, garlic powder, and a little bit of that cumin left over from your earlier recipes. So that's going to be the ingredients that you need for today. For some of the tools, you're going to probably need a pot if we do the dry quinoa. You're going to need a pan to bake the falafel, a cutting board to do all of your cutting on, the safety knives that we got all of you guys. Optionally, you can have a fork to help you smash the chickpeas. You could also use something like this. This is like a potato smasher. You guys might have this at home. You can also use your hands, so it's not a big deal there. The other thing you might need is a can opener. So unless you're like the Hulk and you can bust this guy open, you're gonna probably need one of these to open it up. You're also gonna need a few measuring spoons. So right now we have a ½ teaspoon and we have another teaspoon. So some additional things you might want to grab out is possibly a full tablespoon for another measuring spoon, an additional spoon or fork. The spoon we're going to use for the falafel when we make them. If you guys also have a ice cream scooper or something like this at home, this might make it a little bit easier to scoop out the falafel. And then lastly, a bowl or two, just for mixing.
Awesome. All right, so before we start getting cooking, we're going to preheat our oven. We did this the last time when we made our homemade tortilla chips, and we preheat our oven so that when we want to put in our food to cook, the oven is hot and ready to go. It'll be a little bit quicker. So everyone's going to go to their ovens right now. We're going to turn our oven to 375 degrees. All right. And that should just take about 10 minutes while we're doing prep work, and then our oven will be ready to go when we're ready to put in our falafel.
Cool.
All right, Staf, where are we starting off today?
All right. So I think where we should start first, probably with our chickpeas.
Yeah.
So try to clear out your guys' area a little bit so that we can get exactly what we need out. So we're going to start with the can of chickpeas. How many of you guys have used can openers before? Probably a couple of you, maybe some of you haven't. So normally how people would open a can is kind of like this. You put it on the corner, you squeeze the 2 wheels, and it'll open the can like that. I'm gonna do a little life hack for you guys. This is a little bit of a different way to open up a can, but instead of going on the corner here, we're gonna go off the top, and then we're gonna give it a little squeeze so it cuts into the can. And then we're just gonna start twisting. And
This is crazy. This is not how I learned how to cut a can either.
neither did I, but you know, this is the great part of learning different things while you're cooking. So normally, you guys, we get this top lid part that's gonna come off. Instead, I cut down and around the edge, so this top part of the can is not as sharp as it would be, so I don't have to worry as much about cutting my hand. Now that I got this nice little lid, I'm going to take it and I'm going to drain it all the extra juices. If you want, you can do a little bit of water to kind of rinse them off. Give it a little shake, get all that extra juice and liquid out. Now we're going to throw this into our bowl. And look at that. We got a nice bowl full of chickpeas. So this is where you guys can start mashing. You can use a fork, you can use a spoon, you can use a masher at home, whatever you got. Today we're going to use the masher just to make it nice and easy. So I'm just going to kind of press into these guys, give it a little wiggle. And slowly it's going to kind of break down into a little bit of a paste.
Yeah, so like Staf said, you can either use a fork, you can use the masher, and also if you want to get hands-on, be sure to wash your hands, which you should have done beforehand. And you're just gonna, you can squeeze everything, and it's gonna help us make those ball shapes that we're gonna make in a little bit. And it will help make it a little bit easier to mix once we add our onion and our spices to it.
So now that we got that mashed up a little bit, it's going to kind of look like this little paste. Should look something similar to this. If you got that extra spoon or scraper, just kind of get all that you can back in the bowl. Okay. So, now that you guys have your chickpeas done, we're going to get started on prepping up all of your veggies. So, let's start with actually we're going to start with the onion. That'll probably be a little bit easier. So you guys probably remember cutting onions from the past couple of weeks, right? So you can go about this however you want. You can cut down the middle, you can cut right through the root. Today I'm just going to cut through the root because I find that the easiest. Kind of give you that good symmetry. The other thing you're going to need is half a lemon. So it doesn't really matter how you cut the lemon, hot dog, hamburger, it's going to all turn out just about the same.
Remember our safety techniques we learned with knives. So Staf's cutting away from himself, his area is all clear, he's making sure to watch his fingers, everything is being done safely.
Awesome. Okay, so you should have half an onion and half a lemon currently. Let's start by just kind of peeling away any of that extra skin on the onion, just to get that off. If it makes it easier, you can also cut off the ends where the root is. Might make it a tad bit easier just to get off the skin of the onion. And then take all that extra junk, toss it on out.
I hope today I don't cry from the sulfuric. Oh, our oven is preheated. Check and see if yours is preheated right now. You can pause the video, go check on your oven, make sure everything is all smooth. We got a tough onion today.
Awesome. Okay, so that's all good. So, we're going to want to dice up our onions, and there's a couple ways we can do this. I'm going to give you guys an easy way to do it. If you guys want to try a more difficult, not difficult, but a more skilled method, you can look them up on YouTube. There's a couple different ways. But today, we're going to start with slices, and then we're going to just dice them up a little bit smaller. Okay? So I'm going to cut this onion, get some nice little slices.
In today's recipe, we're doing a lot of different cooking techniques. So does anyone remember how we cooked our tortillas last time? We baked them. So when you bake foods, you're using hot air and it cooks the foods all at an even pace. will also today be simmering. If you have dried quinoa, you'll be boiling your water. So that's getting the water up to a super hot temperature. It's 212 degrees Fahrenheit. And that cooks the food using hot water. Simmering, so today with our quinoa that we have, simmering is kind of like boiling. It's using a little bit less water, and it kind of creates a small bubbling, and it's a little bit quicker than normal boiling, but it cooks it all the way through. And then we won't be doing this today, but does anyone remember how to saute? What sauteing is? Do you remember, Staf?
So sauteing was a type of cooking in the pan, right? Yeah,
we use the hot oil, and you use the pan, and that kind of gets things a little bit crispier, so it can get things browned, but it keeps things soft in the inside. So we've done a lot of different cooking techniques in the past couple of weeks, and especially today.
Awesome. Okay, so as you guys can see, I'm coming through. Be careful with this. I've got these little slices, and I'm just going to come through, and I'm going to cut them into some little squares. Nice little squares that we're going to throw into our mashed chickpeas. Okay? So this might take a second. Feel free to pause the video and go ahead and cut up your onions nice.
Pieces that are almost the same length. And remember, there's no mistakes when cooking, so the size of all of your cutting does not matter. Of course, you don't maybe want a huge piece of onion, unless you really like onions, maybe you do. But it doesn't matter how the sizes are. They don't have to be perfect.
Okay. So you guys should just be about done cutting up your onion. And then before we do that, we have this half a lemon, right? One thing I didn't do before I cut the lemon, which is always a good trick, to make sure you can get all the juice out, a lot of people like to roll the lemon. Kind of makes it a little bit softer and helps some of the juice kind of get out of the lemon a little bit more easily.
Yeah, so we did this when we made our mango salsa. So everyone should remember that. Remember making your lime salsa? It was delicious.
So if you ended up cutting it beforehand, that's okay. Just be careful when you're kind of rolling it. You don't want to press it too hard. You're going to get rid of all that extra juice. And then we're going to get ready to start adding everything in. So we'll start with the lemon first. If you have a half a lemon, we're going to use the juice. So we can just squeeze it on in. You might have a few seeds, so you can get that out beforehand. Not a big deal if a couple end up in there. Just squeeze it on in. And I have another little hack. I don't know if you guys did this. I've watched too many cooking shows apparently. If you use a fork when you go to juice your lemon, you can put it in, squeeze, and twist the fork, and it'll help you get some of that extra juice out. Because sometimes just squeezing it might not get all the juice you want or need.
Other little tricks with citrus fruits, if you do have a juicer, sometimes they look like they have a little bit of a point to them, and you can juice them with that. You can use like a mesh strainer that would catch any of the seeds. We have a couple of seeds in ours. It's okay. If you don't want to have seeds, you can also use your fork and just kind of pull them out too.
Sweet. Okay. So after that, you guys can add on your onion. We'll toss that in there. And then we'll do our spices. Oh. Almost lost them. That wouldn't have been good. Okay. So we're going to go through and we're going to add a little bit of everything. Alright guys. So you should have grabbed out your spices. We have the garlic powder, the parsley, the cumin, and the salt and pepper. So we're going to take our bowl where we mashed everything and threw in our onions and lemon. And we're going to start with 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. And like we did in previous weeks, you can use the back of a fork, the back of a spoon to kind of just clear any of the extra off. It's okay. You might make a mess along the way. That's part of the fun. This one, we're going to do 4 teaspoons of parsley. So Throw a little bit there.
Yeah, and if you don't have powdered garlic, you can also use real garlic cloves. 1 clove of garlic is about 1/2 teaspoon. So you can either use 2 garlic cloves to get that 1 teaspoon or the garlic powder.
Yep. Okay. And then we're going to use a 1/2 teaspoon of the cumin that we had from previous weeks.
Yeah, it adds that nice like earthy, smoky flavor. It's a little bit spicy, but remember it's more of a warm inner spice, not like a hot grab water spice.
Mm-hmm. And then we're going to take a spoon or the fork, whatever you use, and we're just going to kind of mix it up real quick. Okay?
Ooh, I can definitely smell some of that parsley, and not gonna lie, my eyes are watering a little bit from those onions.
Okay. So, you guys might have noticed I didn't quite add my salt or pepper yet. And that's because, so when you're cooking, one of the important things to do, and a lot of the times what you're doing, is you're doing things to taste. So you're kind of adjusting it however you like it or however someone else likes it, depending on who you're making it for. So, what I'm going to do is I might grab like a little spoon, I might try a little bit, and see how it tastes. I think it tastes pretty good, so I might add like a little bit of salt and pepper. You know, not a lot, but like I said, you know, one of the important things when you're cooking is to keep trying it throughout the process. That way you know it's to your liking. So add a little bit of that in there, and then we'll give it another little mix up. It should be fantastic.
It's delicious.
Okay. So the next thing you guys are going to do is kind of clean up your area a little bit. You can get rid of your measuring spoons for the moment, any of your spices, and we want to grab out our pan. So, the first thing we're going to do, you guys probably have that cooking spray still, right? We're going to spray down our pan a little bit. This is to make sure that anything that goes on there doesn't stick too bad. So we're going to give it a little spray. If it didn't quite get on there evenly, you can use a paper towel to help spread it. You can use your hand, whatever it might be. So now we're just going to start making it into pucks. This, you want to use your hands or you want to use a scooper?
You can do whichever you want. If you want, one of us can do the other thing, so we can show you together.
Yeah.
So here's that, and I can use a spoon and my hands.
So with the scooper, this one's pretty easy. Chloe took the nice method. This one's a little bit easier.
So you're gonna want to form that. You're first gonna form it into a little ball, and then to make it cook a little bit faster, you're just gonna squeeze it. You want it to have a little bit of thickness. You don't want it to be paper thin. As you can see, everything kind of sticks all together. Just let them down. So in this recipe, the chickpeas are actually what have the protein in them. So chickpeas, when you have them in the can, you might want to rinse them. That will get rid of some sodium that's in the can. You can also get dried chickpeas. Those are a little bit cheaper. They do take a little bit longer to make though. Usually you have to boil some water, let them sit. Sometimes it can take up to like 4 hours. You can do those with a lot of like dried beans and stuff too. And like we were saying, changing little things in your diet, such as like has anyone heard of meatless Mondays? You heard of meatless Mondays stuff?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, so meatless Mondays, I know that Michigan, we do this sometimes in the dining halls, and it's one day where all the foods are plant-based. So instead of maybe like what we're doing here, instead of having like chicken with our tabouli, we'd have falafels to get that protein in it. Sometimes switching from fish from chicken is a little bit better too.
Awesome. So now you guys might have dirty hands, so I would suggest going back and giving them a little wash real quick, okay?
All right. Now we're going to take our falafels. We're going to throw them in the oven. And you want to make sure it's at 375 degrees. All right. And we're going to set a timer for 10 minutes. So it may take your food a little bit longer than 10 minutes. It might be quicker. Again, you're just going to use your sight and your smell. You can usually smell all those spices cooking, and you can see that they have a little bit of a brown crisp. That means they're ready to go. All right, what's next, Staf?
So the next thing we're gonna have to do, and I'm gonna probably have you guys start on, is the quinoa. So like I said, we have something that might be a little bit different from what you guys have. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to grab some water, and it'll probably say in the package how much you need. So measure out to what it says on the package, and then put it on the stove, and we're gonna bring it to a boil.
So for your dried quinoa is probably what you're gonna boil. We're gonna do a little bit of a simmer, and everything will turn out nice and fluffy. Get that quinoa nice and cooked. So Staf's gonna put about like 2 tablespoons in our pan, maybe a little bit more. We're gonna use our eyes like when we made that ratatouille pasta. You wanna just make sure that everything has a little bit of water on top of it.
Now you're gonna want to turn on your oven or your stove. And like I said, and we've talked about probably in previous weeks, if you guys have gas stoves versus an electric, the electric might need to be a little bit higher than a gas stove to bring it to a boil. And the gas will probably be a little bit lower than the electric. The gas is gonna be a little bit quicker to do it, so make sure you're putting it at a decent heat. And then we're going to kind of let that come to a boil, and we'll come back to our quinoa.
So.
Next thing we're going to start on is we're going to start on our tabouli. For this, we're going to need our tomato, the other half of our onion, and the rest of our lemon.
Yeah, so our tabouli is actually somewhat of a balanced meal. So we do have our grains from our quinoa, and our quinoa that we have also has a little bit of rice in it. So it has the grains. We're putting in some tomato, which tomatoes trick up people. Is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
There's a lot of debate behind this.
Sometimes, it usually goes with vegetable things, but tomatoes are actually fruits. Can anyone tell me why? It's because there's seeds in the inside. So that's technically the definition of a fruit, is that it has seeds in the insides.
Interesting. Well, you learn new things every day. Okay. So, you guys should have already had half your onion cut. And again, what you might want to do is just kind of cut off the top and the bottom, just so it makes it a little bit easier to get that extra skin off. And if you want, you can come in here and peel out that kind of middle section. You don't have to, you can keep it in there. Cut it up with everything else, not going to be an issue. With the tomato, you can keep the bottom on, that's not a big deal. You can cut it off if you'd like. But we're going to start by cutting off the top of the tomato, just to try to get this little leafy part out. Okay, and then I'm just going to cut off the bottom just a little bit, if I can cut into it.
I'm going to throw, our water is bubbling a little bit, so I'm going to put our quinoa into our pot real quick.
Awesome.
And with these packs, you can also throw them in the microwave. So if you have a microwave and you want to do that, it might be a little bit quicker, a little bit easier. Our package says to just take off a little bit of it, throw it in the microwave for 60 seconds. So a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm. I use those type of bags all the time. You can use them for rice. You can use them for a lot of things. You'll see them at the store, and they are fantastic if you got little patience.
All right, I'm just going to mix it up just a little bit.
Awesome. So, you guys might want to grab either the bowl you used originally. You can take a time to pause the video and clean it out and reuse that. Fortunately, today we have an extra bowl to mix our tabouli in. So I'm going to grab that out. If you guys have an extra bowl you want to use, you can do that as well. And then we're going to go through and we're going to dice again. So we're going to dice our onion, and we're going to dice our tomato, and then we're going to end up juicing the lemon like we did last time.
Awesome.
So we'll go through, we'll get those strips again for the onion.
Staf, do you know anything about how we can change or what factors go into how environmentally friendly the foods we eat are?
Well, so there's a lot of things. So depending on the foods that we eat, a lot of stuff goes into producing that food.
Right.
So, when you have a tomato, there's a lot of resources that go into growing a tomato. That could be the water, the land, anything that's used to make this is kind of the resources that it's going to use up.
Yeah, I know that especially when we live in Michigan, the winters, transportation is a huge factor. So all the gas and just the driving that gets done. The nice thing about some of this stuff is in the summers here in Michigan, does anyone remember what was grown in Michigan from our ratatouille pasta? Maybe those zucchini and yellow squash. So when we buy foods that are more close to us, it uses less resources. Sometimes in the summer, we can grow tomatoes in Michigan, we can grow onions. We can't grow lemons though. Usually we get those from like California or Florida, but Staf watches all these cooking shows, so he's probably gonna tell us something super cool about lemons now.
Nothing cool about lemons, but so little fun fact about me is I'm Greek, and lemons are a big part of cooking for us. And so a lot of people don't think you can, but you can grow lemons all year round in your own house.
What?
So I have a lemon tree at home. So if you guys want to do that, it'll take a little bit, and it might not produce a lot of lemons at first. But you can start with a little sapling and a couple seeds in a pot, and then gradually grow the pot and gradually grow the tree, and eventually you'll have lemons.
Well, you learn something new every day, so I feel like I want to grow a lemon tree now. All right, so that also with transportation. The water, sometimes when we grow our food, we use those pesticides, and that's why we want to wash off everything. So we wash off our tomato. Those pesticides can sometimes go into the soil, they can go into the water. It can get dangerous at times, but usually we find ways to take care of it so that all of us have clean drinking water. I know that Lake Erie can sometimes be problematic, but we're working on it. We can change our diet and the ways that we farm to make that a little bit better.
Okay. So you guys should be getting through, kind of cutting these onions up. Again, it's okay. These things don't have to be perfect. Part of the fun is just doing it. So, it's going to take time and practice for you guys to get good at this. So the more you cut, the more you make, the easier it's going to get, the more efficient and the more proficient you're going to get. So don't worry about being all pretty with it.
Yeah, take your time. You want to cut safe. You can always pause your video. What we've been talking about is if you're feeling comfortable, you can grab kind of a couple of the stems of the onion. With our tomato, you can also stack it, make it a little bit quicker, but you want to be safe too.
Correct. Okay, so to kind of clear up some space, I'm just going to take all this diced onion. I'm going to put this directly into our bowl. That way it's not getting in our way while we're trying to cut everything else up.
All right, and it looks like our quinoa is also nice and warm, so I'm going to turn off the heat on that. We're just going to let it sit here and kind of cool down a little bit.
Okay, awesome. So next thing you guys can start on is this tomato. There's a few ways you can do it. With these kind of knives, I'm going to give you kind of what I think might be the easiest. So let's try cutting it into nice, long, thin slices. So you're going to kind of have these little tomato pucks. We're just going to keep cutting through it. It's okay if it doesn't end up all equal. It's all going to go down and come out the same.
And on your recipes, it does say to slice your tomato, but like we've been saying, you can either slice it, you can dice it, you can do whatever you would prefer, whatever you kind of want, bigger pieces, smaller pieces. It's all up to you with cooking.
Awesome. So do we want to do long slices?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Fair enough. Okay. So now we've got these kind of pucks. We're just going to come back through and we can do slices of tomato. You guys might get to this middle piece where it came off the top. If you want, you can kind of cut around that, do a little triangle, a little square, just to kind of cut that out. That might be tough to eat through. And then you just come back through.
Awesome, yeah, and some of this produce is nice too because there's less packaging on it. So we've been talking when we did our snacks that a lot of our snacks we use might be processed. They come with those bags. So when we eat healthier foods like apples and veggies, they don't have as much packaging, which is also a little bit better for the environment. Those look great, Staf. Oh, And it looks like our timer is all set, so I'm gonna stop that. You can pause your video right now, go check on your falafels. We're gonna open up our oven, pull these out. They smell delicious. You're gonna make sure you use a towel or a glove. And I'm gonna set this right on this towel. We wanna be careful that we don't set our hot tray on anything that might melt. So really carefully, you're just gonna use a spatula, flip these over. They might come apart, it's okay. You can use your hands. You just wanna make sure they're not too hot. They're a little bit squishy, but it's gonna be delicious no matter what. So you're just gonna flip everything over. All right. Thank you. And we're gonna throw these back into the oven. So as you can see, some of these got a little bit browner, and that's exactly what we want. So we're gonna throw those back in the oven for about 10 minutes.
Cool. So while that's still going, we're gonna finish up on our veggies. So you guys might have had time, or you might still need to cut. Feel free to pause the video and come back. Once you guys get your tomatoes done, we're just gonna add all that into the bowl as well. We're gonna do a little bit of our lemon again. And like I said, you can kind of roll it a little bit. Don't be too harsh with it if it's already cut in half. And then we're just gonna squeeze all the lemon juice out. You guys might want to take out the seeds. It's up to you, however you feel most comfortable.
Stav's using that trick with his fork to just get in there, kind of squeeze the pulp around, get all the extra juice so we can get all that flavor. Does anyone remember what's good in lemons? They taste good, but they also have some vitamin C in them, which is super helpful for our immune system. Stav's just gonna pull out some of those seeds, but it's okay.
All right, cool. All right, so you guys should have added everything to the bowl. We're gonna do a little bit of our spices. So, a little bit of olive oil. You can use a little bit of your spray, that's okay. I'm gonna add a little bit in there. If you guys have regular olive oil at home, I would suggest possibly drizzling that. You can mix it up a little bit. And then you can add a little salt or pepper, kind of just to your taste. Again, like I said, cooking is all about making what you like to eat. So feel free to go in and get a little taste here and there to make sure that it's to your liking. We'll add a little bit of that guy. Woo.
Yum.
Okay.
All right, and then I think we're gonna add a little bit of parsley in there too. So parsley is it has a similar earthy taste. So like we talked about a couple of weeks ago about the power of spices. They're inexpensive. You can grow them fresh, which is fun if you have a green thumb. Some of us, like myself, don't. So we go to dried herbs. They keep long in our shelves. They add that flavor. So we're gonna do a little bit of parsley. It's kind of just to your taste again. So
no, nothing particular. Try to be a little light with it at first, and then give it a taste. So you can see we don't have a top. I wouldn't suggest that. Make sure that you keep these tops on so that you don't end up pouring the whole bottle in there, okay? So once you get a little bit in there, give it a little bit of a mix. You're gonna see that it's kind of covered pretty decently, and then maybe give it another taste. See how it is.
all right, and then it looks like our quinoa has cooled down a little bit. So as you see, it got a little bit fluffy. I'm just gonna pour that in. If you need help with this, you can ask for your parents' help. You can grab a towel if it's helpful. You can grab both sides. You just want to scrape as much as you can in there, like that.
Awesome. So, again, if you guys want, you can do a little mix. You don't have to. You keep it separate. There's nothing wrong in doing it how you like.
Yeah. All right, so one of the things that is important when you're switching to more plant-based proteins is kind of looking at the amino acids. Do you know what amino acids are?
Are amino acids the little things that make up proteins?
Yeah, so we have tons of different proteins, too many to list, also a lot of amino acids. So those amino acids kind of buddy up and they make proteins. So plant proteins, unlike animal proteins, are not complete. So some of those amino acids are missing. When we eat animal foods, those have all the amino acids that we need. But like we talked about, sometimes animal foods use a lot more resources. So, Staf, do you know by chance what one of the biggest emissioners, greenhouse gases in food?
So I know this one because I've written a few papers about it. So the production of beef or cow or cattle tends to lead to one of the biggest emissions of greenhouse gases.
We actually have a diagram here for you. So I don't know if you can see this. I'm gonna hold it up and we'll get it in big picture for you soon. So as you can see, beef's production has so much greenhouse gas emissions. So some of the reason, like we talked about, was land changes. We have to take down a bunch of trees so all those cows have room. Cows produce methane, which is a greenhouse gas, and that goes up into the air. We have to make food for them, so a lot of corn, lots of water goes into that, transporting it. Then you transport the beef itself, it has to get packaged. So when you're looking at that diagram, as you go down, you see that some of the foods like bananas, which I think most of us have maybe had, peas, those are pretty good, apples, a lot of those lower cost and lower greenhouse gas emission foods are healthier and they're more environmentally friendly. But one of the things is looking at those amino acids. So what we've done here is we've taken a grain. If you pair grains and legumes, so some popular combinations would be like rice and beans, taking those puts all the amino acids together. So the rice has some amino acids that the beans don't, the beans have some amino acids that the rice doesn't have, and when you eat them together, when your body eats them, it kind of creates the different building blocks of that protein. So other options would be having like hummus with pita. So hummus is made with chickpeas, like we did here, has some like lemon juice in it, some parsley, different seasonings. Other options would be mixing like dairy foods with some nuts. So both of those are kind of, they partner up, they're kind of like buddies. So when you add those two together, they're called complementary proteins. So just a little bit interesting facts when you're kind of switching out from your animal proteins to your plant proteins. I'm gonna check on our falafels real quick. They still do have a couple of minutes on them. We're just gonna check them out. Still maybe a couple more minutes.
So this might be a good time for a lot of you guys to take any of your extra materials that are dirty or that you haven't used and kind of put them to the side so that you can make a little area for when you're making all of this up. So I'm just gonna take any of my extra supplies. I'm gonna start putting them in the sink for the moment so we can come by and wash them later.
That is one super important part of cooking. So as much as we all love cooking, sometimes it does create dishes. But we have to clean those dishes. We don't want to make a mess for our parents to make. It's kind of a part of cooking in itself. And usually one thing that I do when I'm at home, if I'm cooking something in the oven and I know it's going to take like 20 minutes, I'll sometimes just wash those dishes while I'm waiting for my food. I mean, you probably have homework you could maybe do, but I think we should stick with cooking for just a little bit to have some fun. I think we should try our tabbouli just to kind of see how it's tasting. Thank you. All right. Let's see, I got a little bit of everything in here. That's super good. You can taste all the lemons that kind of bring everything alive. The onion adds a little bit of spice, but not too much. That's delicious.
Oh yeah, you guys are gonna like this.
Another thing that you can do with your tabouli is you could add cucumber to it. It kind of adds another vegetable, because again, we have our fruit in there with our tomatoes, but you can add your cucumber, which I wonder if a cucumber is a fruit. There's seeds in the inside of that.
Well, how about you guys let us know?
We'll let you figure out that one.
Comment down below and let us know what you think. Is a cucumber a fruit or a vegetable?
We'll talk about this too in our live session. Maybe we'll have a little bit of a debate. We got one more minute on our chickpeas, on our falafels.
So, what are other things that we could add to this recipe?
Definitely more spices. I'm a big basil lover. We talked about this when we had our Italian seasoning. I mean, you can really add whatever you'd like to it.
So one thing that came to mind is I like feta cheese. Feta cheese is made it's a little stinky. Not a lot of people like it, but it's really good. It's nice and salty, so it gives a good flavor and seasoning. And I add it to just about everything. So it would go really well in here. A lot of people use lemon. You could choose to use lime. That might change up the flavor a little bit if you ever want to try that.
Probably eat some pita bread with it. I know that's a really good, dip some hummus. You could probably scoop everything on it. You could make a pita sandwich. Put the falafel in the pita, maybe make some hummus. Put some lettuce and other vegetables in it. And there's our timer.
Awesome.
Pull these out. Remember to grab your towels. All right, I'm going to use this. We're just going to set that on top. So as you can see, I'm going to grab a spatula real quick. All right, so as you can see, everything kind of got a little bit crispy. Just going to scoop these two up, maybe. One. You want to be careful. It's a little bit hot. If you just use the tips of your fingers, it shouldn't be too bad. Got that one. Now let's add some of our tabbouli.
Okay. And I don't know about you guys, but one of my favorite parts of cooking is making my food look good. So a lot of the times I spend a lot of time making the food, and I spend a lot of time plating it to make it look pretty, and it always makes me feel like it tastes just a little bit better. So that's another fun part of cooking you can get into.
Awesome. That looks delicious.
All right.
All right, everyone. So I think that wraps up our 4 weeks of cooking classes. Staf, what was your favorite recipe?
Ooh. I'd have to say the mango salsa.
The mango salsa was really good. I liked the ratatouille pasta. I liked how it had all the vegetables in it. I liked how you could have it in the summer or the winter. It was a kind of a balanced meal if you add that chicken into it. So good. I can't wait to keep cooking.
Oh, yeah?
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We've loved cooking with you, both live and virtually here. We hope you continue cooking. We hope you continue using these skills, continue building on your knife skills, adding spices to your foods, and having balanced meals. All right. That wraps it up.
All right. Have fun, guys.